promise that I won't be that long. Those that know me know I'm long-winded. I first started off with a 120-page dissertation that I'm going to present to you guys. But I promise there ain't one that I'll break it down to about maybe half that, 60 pages. But since we only have an hour, I'm making sure we do. I know you have to get back to school. But good afternoon. It is truly a pleasure to be standing before you, paying tribute to many contributions of African Americans. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Cultural Diversity Committee for allowing me to be one of their speakers for today's event. And I would also like to thank each and every last one of you for being here. And first, let me start off by giving you a little history about Black History Month and how it was established. It was established back in 1926 as an initiative by a writer and an educator by the name of Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And he launched this. It wasn't called Black History Month in the beginning. It was called Negro Week. And his initiative was to just show the support and to educate those about the African American race in the United States. And it was only for a week, and it was for the second week of February between Frederick Douglass's birthday and Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Frederick Douglass' birthday on the 14th, Abraham Lincoln on the 16th of February. But let's move forward a little bit to 1976. In 1976, every American president has proclaimed February as Black History Month. Today, other countries, to include the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, celebrates Black History Month. Canada and the United States celebrates it in February. The UK, they celebrate it in October. A little history. Now, to go forward. For myself, I've been in the Navy 21 years now. Grew up in a small town. A lot of you may not have heard of it, but I call it home. Chicago. I know y'all probably looking like Chicago. Like I said, some of you may not have heard of it. Small town, very small. But growing up in the city of Chicago, the city of Chicago is I would say a very historical place. A lot of things happen in Chicago. I know growing up in Chicago, it was exciting during the month of February, because in the month of February, we did a lot of things there. I can honestly say we did a lot. With that said, the majority of everybody that grew up there, in the month of February, we had school assemblies. And in those school assemblies, we sung a very familiar song that a lot of you may have heard, a lot of you may not have heard. It's called Lift Every Voice and Sing by James Weldon Johnson. That was a song that we all sang every Black History Month. We also listened to the reenactments of a very famous speech of I Have a Dream. That was a speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was also taught in Chicago by teachers and educators, my family members and everything about Black history. And even though we celebrate Black history in the month of February, I was brought up that don't just learn about your history, about your culture, because it's not just Black history, it's the history of America. And to utilize that throughout the 365 days a year. Because it's history. It's our history. All of that. So, growing up, the month of February, celebrating the accomplishments of African Americans. And some of these African Americans have paid contributions to us that a lot of us may not know about or may not have seen, or we take part in it and not even know. I know one of my favorite things is the invention of peanut butter. The invention of peanut butter was made by George Washington Carver, which was an African American. He gave us those contributions. Without peanut butter, we wouldn't have smiles on our faces. Also, another African American that contributed to the United States and to the world as a whole, his name is Garrett Morgan. Back in 1914, Garrett Morgan created the gas mask. And the first gas mask was used during World War I. As we know now, the gas mask is vital to a bunch of occupations. Vital to the military, vital to firemen, vital to a lot of people. So he contributed the gas mask to the world. And he also invented and patented in 1923, at that time, was called the traffic signal, which is very important. If we didn't have the traffic signal or traffic lights, there'd be a lot of crashes. Even though there's crashes now, but the light has protected a lot of people from injury. And he sold that patent also to General Electric for $40,000. Now, that may not seem a lot right now, but back in 1923, 26, that was a lot of money. There was other inventors. Charles Drew. He was famous for blood plasma. Saved a lot of lives in World War II. A lot. Because before that, before he was able to preserve blood plasma, blood was only able to survive in the open air or in a bottle for about a week. So now we have blood plasma that can be stored for a long amount of time. Also, I would like to talk about, we as African Americans contribute to a lot of things like the NBA, sports, that is, if you want to take it to the sporting arena. The first African American basketball player named Charles Henry, better known as Chuck Cooper, was the first African American who played in the NBA, played for the Boston Celtics. And Jackie Robinson, which a lot of us know about Jackie Robinson breaking the barrier to play in the MLB. But there are, in my city of Chicago, we celebrated so much, we named high schools after famous African American. DuSable. We have a museum after him also, Jean-Baptiste DuSable. He was considered the founder of Chicago. And you say, how can he find Chicago? Well, the Indians, Native Americans were there, but he was the first African American in history that we know of that settled there. So they consider him the founder of Chicago. And we have a museum for him, which is a Black History Museum in the city of Chicago. But also, with all these leaders and military men that paved the way for us in the United States and the world, I would have to say my grandfather was one of my heroes because he paved my way of joining the military. He joined the military in World War II, fought for this country. I wanted to be like him. I had cousins that joined the military also that followed his footsteps in the Army. I had third cousins that was master sergeants in the Marine Corps that followed that footsteps, that created that legacy of self-worth. But growing up in Chicago was a very good experience for me due to learning a lot about Black history, sitting in the assemblies, singing the songs, doing a reenactment of I Have a Dream with Martin Luther King, by Martin Luther King, watching all the movies that came on WGN. Probably like, what is WGN? Channel 9. Everybody that's from Chicago know about WGN or WTTW, Channel 11, that showed PBS movies and everything. But those are the movies that I grew up on. Those are the things that I can remember doing growing up. And also, my brother, I could actually say he was a big influence for me for doing African American Month or Black History Month, because he was a pioneer in his own mind, if he don't even realize it himself. Because he taught me the value of education. He and I went to the same high school. He was the first to do a lot of things in my family. He was the first to go to college. He was the first to graduate from college at a double major, chemical engineer and a certified public accountant. So I call him a nerd. So there is no reason or anybody should be ashamed of being a nerd. Because those are the people that are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. So I call him a nerd because during Black History Month, he participated in everything. He participated in what we have in Chicago. It's called the Know Your Heritage Bowl. They have it every year. It gives out scholarships to underprivileged inner city youth. And it was a good program. And it taught you about the history, your culture, and everything. So he was the first to participate in that. So he brags about that. Yeah, I'm the little brother. I envy him sometimes, but he set the path for me of education. Also, to make it short, because I know we're on time, and I could go on and on, but it's a quote that I learned when I was in high school that one of my high school counselors told me during Black History Month. And this quote is by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And it went something like, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't walk, then crawl. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you cannot walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that's what Black History Month is all about. It's about us learning about our past and all the individuals before us that kept pushing forward for all the rights and privileges that we have today. And I thank you for your time and your patience.